correct. Correct.
Your employers are all our friends. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. We'd like to save the world when it's under attack, but how you gonna pay for that? Ow! When people want proof that the world ain't flat, we'll just give them their money back. Oh yeah! That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board.
Michael Girardi, editorial board. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from Ben's attic. News, weather, and traffic coming up. How's it going, everybody? All right, we're on the live stream chat. Good to go. Shout out to Michael Girardi, man. That song is awesome. He has another song. We'll try and play that on as well. If you're in a band or you know someone who makes music, tell them about our show. Say, hey, there's this show. Yeah, it's weird. It's like they're in an attic. There's like a train going by every
leaf
8
blower.
minutes. A leaf. It's an interesting show. Send that our way. Let us get the audio and let us play their music. Don't sue us, and we'll play our music. That's how it goes.
The key part being the don't sue us part.
Always. All right, your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, April 28th is moments away. But let's thank these unions before we go any further. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8.
That's correct.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9 are sponsors.
That's correct.
And the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150.
That's correct.
Thanks, unions. You guys are great. Couldn't do it without you. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by our dear friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, give us a Tuesday song of the day. And not that one you were singing ever since I got here, because you've already had that as a song of the day, the convoy song.
Yeah, you just put it right back in my head. Come on and join a convoy. Hey!
That's already been a song of the day.
Man. I'm probably going to do that later today. We talk about that Downstate Judge. But spent a lot of time this weekend listening to Aretha Franklin. So here's my tribute to the great Aretha Franklin, which is, when I sing it, it's not really a tribute.
No, it's not.
A lot of people are going to go, Ben, is that the Dionne Warwick version you're singing? Each moment I wake up. Come on, D. Hey, before I put on my makeup, woo, I'll say a little prayer for you. One of the greatest songs ever written, D. Say a little prayer for you. People go, wait, Ben, that sounds a little like the Dionne Warwick version. No, that's my Aretha Franklin version. Maybe later this week, D, I'll do the Dionne Warwick version.
Oh, that's it? One more time the song again?
Oh, you want me to sing it again?
Yeah. Your explanation kind of went over the song, the actual song.
Okay, hold on.
Oh boy, I didn't know it was going to be this much of a performance.
Each morning I wake up. Hey, everybody, come on. Before I put on my makeup.
That's actually been a song of the day before too. But
No.
anyway, the Ben Joravsky Show.
That was the Dionne Warwick version.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. Apparently only Ben knows 6 songs. It is Tuesday, April 28th, and live from Ben's house, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's the over-the-phone return of our good friend and political strategist and a fantastic guitar player, PC Peter Cunningham. And now your host, an awful guitar player, Chicago Raider columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Trump's Lysol Lessons Tuesday. And here's why. Good week. You have a good weekend, D?
No, I did not.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Very boring.
Yeah, very boring. I had a good weekend. Well, sort of. You know, mine was a little boring, too. I want to make you think like mine was so exciting. Like, well, I'm in the fast lane here, D, in my attic. Oh, wait. Hold, D, look what's going by. Chugga, chugga, choo, choo. Brown lines flying by, baby.
Take a toke, everybody.
So yeah, I saw a movie. It's called The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey. Not such a good movie. It was really dumb, and I wound up only watching 30 minutes of it, and I turned it off, and I put on, can I say it? Schitt's Creek. Man, I love that show. I'm laughing. It's me laughing at Schitt's Creek. Anyway.
That was him laughing, everybody.
So you know how I always say, run, don't walk to see the movie? Well, in the case of The Gentleman, it's like run, don't walk to avoid seeing.
Hey, I'm a gentleman, man. I'm a gentleman, man.
Is that McConaughey?
That's my McConaughey, I guess. I'm a gentleman.
You know what? You may have undone the damage I did. Maybe he'll come and do the interview. What do you think of that?
Murph, I am your gentleman.
Wait, who's Murph?
That's that one movie he was in. Was it called Interstellar? I am your ghost, Murphy.
I think I actually remember that movie. I like McConaughey, but this movie was terrible.
Oh, you were going to say it sucked.
Yeah, no, it really. But I don't swear, okay? Of course, Monday I watched 2 episodes of The Last Dance, of course, the ESPN Michael Jordan documentary. And I just want to one more time, thank Frank for teaching me how to watch it. I feel like I'm so, cool.
Old.
No, cool and hip. Because I'm finally watching something in real time. Usually, like The Sopranos, 10 years have passed, and I'm like, hey, Dennis, have you heard of a show called The Sopranos? Ever hear of it? I'm not like watching it on real time like the rest of America. But then again, I feel like the real cool people are the ones who saw the preview. They're the ones who go, so before the show comes out, they're like, yeah, I saw it already. I got a preview. Those are the real cool people, all right?
The cool people are the ones that can figure it out without the help of a listener of their podcast.
Yeah, Frank. God bless you, Frank. Ben, you know how to do it. I'm like at the Bogart version, by the way. They don't even here's the interesting thing. ESPN's like the Bogart version of the documentary. They don't have the swearing. They bleep. Like if you pay extra, apparently you get to hear Michael Jordan swear.
Oh.
Yeah, but they beep it out. So it's like, I'm reading accounts of the show, and then they'll have the full quote. And I go, hey, I didn't hear that. Because they beep it out. I got the cheap version.
That's so funny.
Dennis has a very strict rule that I'm not allowed to talk about sports.
Exactly. So let's just stop. Let's stop it right there.
I'm not going to have a sports. But Dennis, by the way, did I tell you
what?
That my wife made a delicious chocolate cake?
Really?
Yeah. Why don't you go downstairs and look at it?
Well, I do love cake. Hold on. Go down there.
Yeah, go down and look at that cake, all right?
Cake down here?
Yeah. And look at the coffee while you're at it. Is he gone? Whew, good. Let me tell you something, folks. On Monday's show, or at Sunday's show of The Last Dance, they talked about the rivalry with the Pistons. Man, they got it all wrong. All right, let me just say this. I had John Sally come on. He used to play for the Pistons. Then he played for the Bulls. But he was like being his Piston guy. He was like, oh, NBC and the NBA didn't want us to win. They wanted the Bulls to win. They were the favorite. I'm like, no. Don't rewrite history, John Sally, just because the Bulls swept you. The powers that be that run the NBA allowed you guys to maul and just beat up Michael Jeffrey Jordan. If they wanted Michael Jeffrey Jordan to win, they would have started calling fouls on you guys. So don't rewrite history, Johnny Sally. Yeah, that is really...
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, yeah, hi.
No cake.
No cake?
No.
I was just talking about international exchange rates, a very important discussion about monetary policy.
Awesome. Typical Ben stuff that you talk about.
How is
Excellent.
the euro doing in contrast to the dollar, D? Very important stuff, okay? Anyway, what else? Oh,
You owe me cake.
you didn't get to look at the cake?
There was no cake. What do you mean? Look at
You
it.
could have looked at the coffee pot. There's a great coffee pot down
Cake,
there.
no coffee.
By the way, what else? Great story in the New York Times. Saturday's New York Times. In the business section, they like when they have really great stories about the piracy going on in our country, like rich people using their contacts in government, generally with the Republican Party, to sneak in language that gives them even more tax breaks and handouts than they would ordinarily get. They tend to dump those on the business section. I don't know why they go, people aren't going to care about this. Put it on the business section. So if you really want to read about the larceny going on in our country, you should read the business section. Here's the headline buried at the bottom. Like, it's like you have to take the paper and...
You see that paper, listeners?
Yeah,
see that?
This is from Saturday's business section. Bonanza hides in a rescue package. How about that for a headline? And I'm reading down. Here's an interesting one. One provision tucked into the federal economic rescue law increases the amount of deductions companies are permitted to take on the interest they pay on large quantities of debts. Only companies with at least $25 million in annual receipts can qualify for this tax break. Only companies with $25 million. That's funny. Like when it came to dishing out loans for small businesses, Potbelly got to dish it out. They got to make sure they put loopholes to protect Potbelly.
I mean, those cookies are delicious, but Potbelly, come on.
And Ruth Chris. Remember, they took care of the big steakhouse chain with the loophole. And now I just read this. I don't know if you saw this. The Lakers. I know I'm not allowed to talk sports, but this has got a political end to it.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Lakers, a basketball team for all you non-sports fans out there, one of the most wealthiest basketball teams, most valuable basketball franchises in the country, if not the most. I think it's worth $4 billion or something. They took advantage of the loophole to get money that should have gone to small businesses. Like, just to throw one out there. My wife's here, just throwing one out there.
No kidding.
My wife. 2 people work at that place. The Lakers, like $4 billion. Anyway, the Lakers.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot. For that clarification. And the Lakers say they're going to pay it back. Well, we'll see about that. Anyway, so this provision, only companies with at least $25 million in annual receipts are eligible. Then there's this other one. Let me read this one to you. Another change lets people deduct even more of their... Hold on. Newspaper. I got to go to page 7. Hold on, guys. Just bear with me. Page 7. Here we go. Oh, yeah.
It's after 6.
This is
and
another
before 8.
deduction. It enables them to deduct company shares. Wrong one. Hold on. There we go. Yes. It enables them to deduct losses from any winnings they reaped in the stock market, sharply reducing what they owe in capital gains tax. Only households earning at least $500,000 a year, the top 1% of American taxpayers, are eligible. So let me get this straight. They limit eligibility to this huge tax break only to the wealthiest people in this country. It's like reverse Robin Hood. We're here in the state of Illinois. We're struggling with trying to pass a fair tax initiative so that the wealthier people pay at a higher rate than just the regular people, middle-class people, broke people, poor people, right? Like the people who do the Ben Joravsky show type of people.
Hey.
All right?
That's me. You're talking about me.
Yeah, well, there's 2 of us right now on that boat, and there's a huge hole in it. So we're trying to figure out how we can get people who have a lot of money, can afford to pay taxes, to pay a greater share, as opposed to broke-ass people who don't have a lot of money. Meanwhile, in Washington, they stick in a provision that limits this tax break, this huge deduction, for only the wealthiest. I'm like, it's possible that broke-ass Dennis or me might have, some stocks. Dennis could take advantage of this program, but no, sorry, have to make at least $500,000 a year. I'm like, what? What are they trying to do? They're literally sticking a provision in there that limits it to the richest people in the country. So one more time, folks, Potbelly, Ruth Chris, the Los Angeles Lakers can take advantage of programs that are intended to help the poor, but the poor can't take advantage of programs that literally are limited to the rich. Okay, there you go. That's the Republican Party for you. Finally, there was some Trump news. Lots of Trump news this weekend. But my favorite Trump news is left over from the big Thursday briefing. We discussed this on Friday, D. I don't know what's a disinfectant gate, Lysol gate, whatever. Donald Trump, of course. You know what? Play the tape.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful. I hope people enjoy the sun. And if it has an impact, that's great. I'm just hearing this, not really for the first time. I mean, there's been a rumor that, a very nice rumor that you go outside in the sun or you have heat and it does have an effect on other viruses. But
All right, that's our president. By the way, later on, of course, when he got in trouble for recommending that people consider using disinfectant, like drinking Lysol or whatever, he said he was being sarcastic. I think we all agree, even Republicans will agree there's not a shred of sarcasm in any of those comments. Anyway, the New York Times did the deep dive on, I think it was Saturday or so, I can't remember. The days all come together. The deep dive on what really went down. They took it really serious. How did this moment occur where Donald John Trump got in front of the American people at one of his briefings, which is viewed by millions and millions of people, and actually say that this might be a possible solution to take disinfectant? And then they explained it this way. And it kind of, I don't know, it sort of reminded me a little bit of one of our pre-show preps, D. So here's what it is. So according to the sources in the White House, et cetera, that before the president does that official briefing in front of the TV cameras, there's a briefing. So it's like a pre-show briefing, all right? It's the briefing before the briefing. Remember, Ricky Hennon always talks, before the official meeting, the public meeting, there's the private meeting, and before the private meeting, there's the other private meeting.
I tell you, we barely have one pre-show meeting. A pre-show meeting before a pre-show meeting will never happen on this program.
Pre-show meetings usually are like this. All right, D, time for the pre-show meeting. Really busy right now. Very busy, okay? That's a pre-show meeting. Okay,
yeah.
So anyway, but we tried. I thought we did a pretty good job with our pre-show meeting today. So Trump has the briefing before the briefing. Only thing is that's where all the doctors and the scientists assemble, and they're there to tell Trump, what he's going to say and what he's going to talk about, and how they're trying to arrange the briefing. Only guess what? Trump doesn't like to go to the briefings. He's got other things to do. He's watching television. He loves watching I can relate to a certain degree. I love Schitt's Creek, but I don't think he's watching Schitt's Creek. He's watching CNN and getting. So he's not.
No, he's up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. Am I right?
Say.
Huh?
That's correct.
Yeah? Huh?
Dr. D.
I'm not a doctor.
Yeah. Am I right?
Yes, that's billion.
That's what I'm
with a
talking
B.
about.
I love that. I'm not a doctor. So he doesn't attend the briefing. So he misses the briefing. So he rushes in with little preparation for his official briefing in front of the American people. And so then they give him an abbreviated version of the briefing that he missed. Apparently, Pence is at the briefing, and a couple other White House guys are at the briefing. So they'll rattle off a couple things. He's half listening. And here's the thing. Donald Trump thinks that he's really, really smart. He thinks, I don't need the briefing. You give me like a nugget of information, I can wing it. And he's got this new thing he does where we just heard it, he's somber and sober and real serious, as though he was part of the briefing, as though he had this long, learned discussion with Dr. Fauci about the impact of disinfectants on the virus. Oh, that's very interesting. And they've given him some, article that was in Landslide or New England Journal of Medicine. Oh, let me read that before I do the briefing. Oh, fascinating. This research by these scientists at this Harvard lab, at this Cambridge lab, he's really knows what he's talking about. Then he gets up there and starts winging it. It's sort of I remember this one time Oh, I don't know if I should tell this story, D. One time back in the old days at the studio, and you were doing the news, and right in the middle of the news, while you were doing the news, I got a text. And I shouldn't have looked, D. Shouldn't have looked. But I looked because I thought it was from a guest. So I looked at the text, and I stopped listening to what you were saying. And all of a sudden, you stopped talking. And I realized, guess what? It was my moment to comment about what you had just said. But I hadn't heard what you said.
Oh, boy.
So what did I do? Was I just honest? Go, I'm sorry, D. Could you repeat that? I wasn't paying attention. Nope, wasn't honest, D. What I did was I instantly made this judgment. The last word I heard him talking about was something with Pritzker. I am just going to talk about Pritzker in the most general way and see if that works. And it didn't really work because you're looking at me like, what the beep are you talking about? But we moved on. In the case of Donald John Trump, it's a briefing in front of millions and millions of people. And he's got this vague memory of somebody telling him something about a disinfectant. I don't know. Maybe they were saying it worked in, scrubbing off germs on a desk or something. So he starts winging it. Well, you put the disinfectant in, and then it just washes out your system. Could work. More study. That like being all serious and somber, and everybody's like, the advisors are like, oh no, oh my God. Well, here's the thing that kills me. After he did that, people started calling stores. Hey, people started calling doctors. Hey, I heard that disinfectant works. Is there a particular kind of disinfectant that works more than others? Is it like, I don't know, Lysol, Clorox? Which one is the best? And then is it just, the disinfectant just work if you have COVID-19? What if you want to prevent it? What if you want a prophylactic, like that word, a prophylactic, if you want to prevent yourself from having, does the disinfectant work then? People are like, oh, we could take it, and I'll never get it. And this is the thing I found probably most disturbing at all. I've gotten used to the fact that a president is a liar, that a president doesn't do any preparation for the job he has. He's just sort of winging it. I've gotten kind of used to that. Dennis says he's just a comic. It's a performance work. We shouldn't take him serious in any way. That's sort of like, what was it, the papers that Huffington Post said they weren't going to cover him in the news section. They were only going to cover his campaign in the entertainment section. So, okay, I've kind of gotten used to that. But the fact that there's still people out there that take him serious, that's scary. That's pretty frightening. And their vote counts every bit as much as your vote counts, people. And I'll tell you this, those people who take him seriously, who are calling those stores and calling those doctors to see if Lysol really does work in the fight against COVID-19, they're not the ones who are going to be able to take advantage of those tax breaks that Trump is sneaking into those bills. We got a great show today.
Don't hit the desk so
Peter
hard.
Cunningham, PC.
You like
He's all
karate chopped
fired
your
up.
desk.
Peter Cunningham is, of course, the political strategist and great political thinker who has worked for many Dems down through the ages and is now positioned himself in a role of trying to show the Dems of the world, the Bidens of the world, what Democrats should be proposing and pushing and adopting as we head into this election. So it'll be interesting to see what he thinks of the current news of the day. And we'll have PC on in a little while. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man they call Dr. Doobie, with the news.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Listeners, how we feeling? We good? 30 more days and maybe to go. I hope you're feeling good. Let's talk about what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. First up, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
I'm not a doctor.
No, he's not a doctor, but there is a good chance that J.B. Pritzker will be joined by a couple of them this afternoon at the Thompson Center for his daily COVID-19 press briefing. It starts at 2:30. If you want to know the latest, go watch it. If you don't want to know the latest, then don't. Hey, how about that lawsuit against the governor, Ben? We have a follow-up on that.
About it.
Now, the last we heard, a Southern Illinois state lawmaker, a Republican state rep by the name of Derick Bailey, filed a lawsuit Thursday against old Governor Jellybean Pritzker. JB, Jellybean?
Oh, I get it. I was like, Jelly Bean.
JB.
Yeah, I get
What's it stand for, by the way?
I forget. I should know this. I'll think about it. Frank, what's JB stand for? I just
I think
blanked on it.
Jonathan Robert, right?
No.
It's not Jonathan Robert?
Frank will tell us.
No.
I just
All
can't
right.
remember.
Bailey claimed in the lawsuit filed in Clay County Circuit Court that Pritzker has exceeded his authority and is violating the civil rights of the state's residents after Pritzker extended his stay-at-home order through May 30th. Well, we learned on Monday that a downstate judge has agreed with Bailey that Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker lacks the legal authority to force him personally to stay home past 30 days during the coronavirus pandemic. It's a decision that not only applies to the Southern Illinois lawmaker, State Rep Derick Bailey, but the governor said it will endanger all Illinoisans and open the door for others to file suit. The governor was actually made aware of the judge's ruling during his live COVID-19 briefing on Monday. We have the audio. Like to hear it? Here it go. JB not having it in 3, 2, 1.
Governor, a judge just ruled that your stay-at-home order is, in Derick Bailey's lawsuit, is no longer able to stand. We're still getting the details of what that order means, but would you like to react to that?
Representative Derick Bailey's decision to take to the courts to try and dismantle public health directives designed to keep people safe is an insult to all Illinoisans who have been lost during this COVID-19 crisis. And it's a danger to millions of people who may get ill because of his recklessness.
If the judge is saying, Derick Bailey's right, you might not have this authority, what is every city, every county is going to go ahead and say, guess what, we're opening?
That is the danger that Derick Bailey has put this state in. You've just stated it perfectly succinctly. People are in danger as a result of this ruling, of the judge's ruling, of the suit that was brought by Derick Bailey. We certainly are going to act in a swift fashion to try to have this ruling overturned. Certainly put a stay in place. I mean, it's frankly, it's insulting, it's dangerous, and people's safety and health has now been put at risk. There may be people who contract coronavirus as a result of what Derick Bailey has done now.
Well, Dee, I have to say I agree with what Pritzker said, but I'm going to say something here that's probably going to get me kicked out of all my...
Your attic?
Yeah, attic and all.
Your wife's going to be mad at this? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, my wife is so used to me by now. But no, all my beloved friends of the Democratic persuasion are going to get mad at me. But here's the deal. As much as I oppose the filing of the lawsuit, I believe that Derick Bailey has a right to file a lawsuit, and I believe that we still live in a democracy, and that private citizens and public, in this case, state reps, have the right to go to court to confront directives issued by the governor, just like Democrats have the right to go to court to confront directives issued by President Trump. We do not live in a monarchy, and he is the governor of the state. He's not the king of the state. And so Derick Bailey has every right to go to court and seek a ruling in his favor. A judge is supposed to wrestle with all the issues, the public safety issues, as opposed to the individual liberty issues, as opposed to how much authority J.B. Pritzker has. I just think this is 101 of democracy. So I'm not like one of these Dems who are tripping all over the fact that Derick Bailey actually filed the suit. I'm more concerned about the judge and the ruling he makes and how widespread it is. How much does it tie Governor Pritzker's hands in terms of trying to protect the public? So I presume that Governor Pritzker's going to have to put the evidence out there as to why he thinks his statewide stay-at-home order is necessary and how it's going to protect the people of the state of Illinois. Indeed, I welcome that. I always welcome more information as opposed to less information. There's so many mixed messages. We've had a field day talk about all the mixed messages that government has been sending out in this last, has it been 6 weeks? How long have we been in this attic?
Too long, dude.
Wait a minute, you love the attic.
Nah.
Don't act like This dude loves the attic, ladies and gentlemen. Comes here, gets a cup of coffee. What did she make you today? My wife made you that.
Toast.
Was that good? Wasn't
Really
it?
good.
Oh, that toast.
Jelly and butter.
And some peanut butter. Dennis, would you like a peanut butter? She said she treats him like he's a kid, you know? Like our millennial son. Anyway, he's got it pretty good in this attic, man. Where was I? Anyway, yeah, so, you know, I got no problem with Derick Bailey filing that lawsuit, and that's his right as an American citizen, and the judge is taking it very seriously. I hope ultimately that the judge rules on Pritzker's side, because I do believe that there is a public interest at stake here. But, you know, I'm not tripping on, oh, he's horrible. He's just a wretched human being. You know, which many of my Democratic friends are saying. I'm just not feeling it that way, D. So, you know. But it's very bizarre. Do you have a more update on this one?
Yeah, we got more on this. But
yeah.
first, I want to ask you. I'm going to play the audio again of this because I think, to me, this is the most surly I've ever heard J.B. Pritzker be. I'm going to play the audio again, and Ben, you weigh in, and you weigh in with this as well.
Governor, a judge just ruled that
Very
your
surly
stay-at-home order is, in Derick Bailey's lawsuit, is no longer able to stand. We're still getting the details of what that order means, but would you like to react to that?
Representative Derick Bailey's decision to take to the courts to try and dismantle public health directives designed to keep people safe is an insult to all Illinoisans.
I think that's the most PO'd I've ever heard J.B.
Yeah,
Pritzker.
he is. By the way, it's less than Lori Lightfoot. Remember Lori last week? We'll be talking about this with Dave. Can I let that cat out of the bag, D? Can I let that one out of the bag?
Yeah, it's called plugging our show.
Okay.
Why would you withhold information that would maybe make someone listen more?
Yeah.
Our host, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what? He learned that at radio school. That's kind of a radio school technique. Plug the show. Dave Goetz, our Ace City Hall reporter, will be here. He's got all these clips. We're going to be having a field day with the taking apart the virtual city council meeting that went down last week. There was two of them, Wednesday and Friday. Ray Lowe and Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa going at it with Lori Lightfoot. But Lori Lightfoot was more pointed in her remarks toward Ray Lowe and Carlos. I don't know. Maybe it's about a tie between Lori Lightfoot and J.B. Pritzker. I don't blame J.B. Pritzker for being really irritated at Derick Bailey. Ultimately,
I mean, I remember when he was running for governor, one thing that you would say is that you could hit this is when you could hit J.B. Pritzker in the forehead with a 2x4, and he'd still be, hey, come on, you know, it's all good. Hey, so you hit me, it's fine.
yeah, but in this case, Derick Bailey's lawsuit is potentially hitting everybody in the state of Illinois in the head with a 2x4. So I don't blame J.B. Pritzker for being upset and being irritated and wanting
Listen, Bailey,
the throttle.
I'm coming for you. Springfield State Fair, you and me.
Wait, by the way, for 10 trivia
Holy
points,
cow,
what town is Bailey from? Don't cheat. He's cheating, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't remember. It was like Xenia or
That's
something.
good enough. We never did check out the exact pronunciation. It's X-E. By the way, Frank, I told you he would know. Just sent me a text. JB is short for J. Robert. Thank you, Frank. I thought it was that.
Well, I like jelly bean better. How about that, huh?
So let me write that down. Try not to forget that.
What,
anyway,
jelly bean?
Xenia, isn't it? Is that how you pronounce it?
Xenia, yeah. There we go.
Yeah, that's where he's from. Some sort of little town downstate. So, yeah, I don't blame J.B. Pritzker for really wanting to throttle the guy. But the guy has a right to file that suit, ladies and gentlemen. I hate to say it. We live in a democracy. All right, D? Come on.
Xenia sounds like a crappy nightclub. Okay, here we go. We got more to talk about here. McHaney's ruling states that Bailey has, quote, shown he has clearly the right of immediate protection, namely his liberty interest to be free from Pritzker's executive order of quarantine in his home. The order dated Monday also says that Bailey, quote, will suffer irreparable harm if the 30-day restraining order isn't granted. And hey, here's a surprise to literally no one. Bailey is a vocal supporter of President Donald Trump.
Oh, there's a shocker.
He's also a member of the Illinois House Republicans Eastern Bloc. Remember them? Yeah, that was that small group of legislators who once sponsored legislation to kick Chicago out of Illinois.
Oh, yeah. Why do they call them Eastern? Because they're from the east side of the state?
I mean, I would assume so, right?
Yes. Go ahead.
You remember them?
Yeah, I vaguely remember them. I think that was a memory that's stirring things up from when we were back at the studio, right, D?
Yeah.
Back at the studio, yeah.
Wait.
We talked about them.
You recall your thoughts on those people?
No.
The Eastern Bloc?
What did I say?
right.
Did I have something really... I'm sure I did, but I just can't remember what it said.
It's Tuesday, guys. Hang tight with us. Trump won Clay County 79.8% to Hillary Clinton's 24% in the 2016 presidential election, record show. Clay County has reported only 2 cases of COVID-19 through Monday. Bailey was not immediately available for comment on Monday, but last week he told the Chicago Sun-Times that he filed suit days after speaking with the governor by telephone. He said, "Our people down here are very frustrated with what's been going on. We're not affected by the COVID crisis like the other parts of the state." He's saying about Pritzker, quote, "He did make some changes and that was good. But he just, he didn't make enough," Bailey said. "We're not seeing the COVID numbers and crisis in any shape or form down here in the district."
Yeah, all right. Lots of things to unpack there. Number one, at the moment, you're not affected by the COVID crisis as other parts of the state. That doesn't mean you won't be affected if you just go back to just normal, interactions, opening up restaurants and bowling alleys, etc. So there could be a precautionary reason that Pritzker is doing this. Again, these are the issues that will be hashed out with this lawsuit. And let me remind you that whoever made that ruling, that judge, is also from downstate Illinois and is also gets his position of authority by going to the voters. And guess what, D? Those same Trump voters from downstate Illinois hold that guy's future. So he's not about to issue a ruling that would favor Pritzker. You know what I'm saying? He's like, what was that famous line? But I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. Sorry, I'm going with Darren. And by the way, every time I hear Darren Bailey, I think of the character in Bewitched. You know what I'm saying? Darren, the husband. Anyway, so
Hang tight, millennials.
So obviously that local judge is going to rule with Darren Bailey. I got a feeling, to quote the Beatles, that when it goes up the ladder, and then probably we got a state Supreme Court, they will rule with Pritzker as Pritzker and Kwame Raoul, the Attorney General, present the public health reasons for having these restrictions. By the way, so are you done with this news item?
The lawsuit will now go through the 5th District Appellate Court, which covers southern Illinois and is made up of 5 elected Republican judges and 2 Democrats. The governor needs 2 justices to rule in his favor.
He needs 2 justices?
That's what it says.
How could 2 beat 5? This was an electoral college or judiciary? Oh, we have less than they do, but we win. Where's this article from?
The article, I believe I got it from Illinois Politico.
Illinois Politico, okay. Well, we'll see about that. I never heard of that. He wins if he just gets 2 justices? So he can lose 5-2 and still win? We need Jim Coogan to explain this stuff to me.
Oh, Ben, come on. Shout out to Jim Coogan.
Yeah, we need. By the way, folks, Jim Coogan interview, we dropped it this Saturday, right, D? Mm-hmm. Excellent interview. Jim Coogan and I go through Trump's crimes, and there's a long list of them. Taking those apart.
Download that latest at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites. If you listen on the live stream and you've yet to subscribe, please subscribe. We'll send you notifications. Turns out we have new content every single day on the Ben Joravsky Show.
Yeah, every single. We're the hardest working podcasters in the city of Chicago. Anyway, so the ruling was only on behalf of Darren Bailey. This is the part that kind of blew my mind. Whoa! And other reporters were like, "Wait a minute." There was that collective moment at the press conference where all the reporters are like, "Hey, wait a minute. Hold on now. This is really trippy." But it only affects Bailey. So the way Bailey filed the lawsuit, he's the only beneficiary of this ruling. So that means he's free to do whatever he wants. But it's like the barbershops aren't open, so he can't go to a barbershop. You know what I'm saying, D? So he can give himself a haircut? I don't like.
Get the clippers, man. Number 3, clippers. Boom, done.
Oh, man, this judicial ruling doesn't make any sense. It's like this judge. Maybe the judge figured it out this way. well, I don't want to look like a complete idiot, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this ruling so it just affects one man in the state of Illinois. Then all the Trumpsters will be like, yeah, man, he's a MAGA hatter. Okay. But the rest of the state will be unaffected. We need some learned legal scholars. We got to get Jim Coogan back in the show to explain how this can affect how we are going to liberate everybody. Liberating quotes, ladies and gentlemen. If it's just one guy. The one guy, now he can go bowling, D. Darren Bailey, I'm going bowling. Oh, and there's no bowling alleys open. You know, what are you going to do? I could go to a coffee shop, but there's no coffee shops open.
All right, so we'll never have a Darren Bailey interview here on the Ben Joravsky Show. So don't be expecting that anytime soon.
I just blew Matthew McConaughey, okay? I thought we had him, all right? I thought we were going to get Matthew to talk about The Last Dance. Every week we bring on a guest to talk about The Last Dance.
Hey,
right?
man, Matthew McConaughey.
I love Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, MJ. That's kind of like Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I
All
was
right.
just going to say, we're heading in the Clinton
All right,
country.
let's go to the live stream chat here. Shout out to everyone on the live stream chat. All of you are awesome. Johnny Joe weighed in. He says it's pronounced Xenia.
Xenia. Thank you. Xenia. Let me write that down.
And he
We're going to probably need that every day. Xenia. Got it. Thank you, Johnny.
Xenia. Then Johnny Joe says he almost bought a house in Xenia.
Whoa. Is a Xenia listener?
He almost bought a house in Xenia. So he's not a Xenia listener.
Yeah, but he could be living down there, duh, and renting. Hello.
Johnny Joe, do you live in Xenia?
Xenia.
All right.
Did we establish where Xenia is? I can't remember.
I'll look it up in a second here. Radio Doogie says JB is kind of shaped like a jelly bean. Hey, come on, Radio
Come
Doogie.
on
I didn't
now.
mean it like that. It's just fun. Jelly bean, you know what I mean? All right, shout out to Kyle. Kyle weighed in on the live stream chat. Kyle, we always appreciate you. He says Bailey's lawsuit equals Governor Pritzker is denying my right to force other people to die so that I can make money because I'm a loon.
I agree with you on that point, but he still has a right to file it, but I agree with you on that point. And I got to believe, at some level, he's going to lose. I cannot believe the state Supreme Court, if it goes over the state Supreme Court, will undercut Pritzker in this one. Don't believe it. Now, that next body you say is 5-2 Republicans? I don't think those guys are going to go against Trumpsters, MAGA hat wearers. Come on now.
All right, we had a new listener on the live stream chat weigh in. Keith weighed in. What's up, Keith? Thanks for weighing in. You're awesome, and hope people be nice to Keith on the live stream chat, okay? Jeff weighed in. Jeff says Bailey is a showboater. If he were serious, he'd have worked to develop a plan to reopen. His only interest is to get the attention of the deplorables.
Deplorables. I haven't heard that word in a while. Yeah, that word did Hillary a lot of good when she said deplorables. Yeah, it's a political stunt, absolutely. You know, and it's so like I said, it's so bizarre how it's worded. So he's the only guy. Well, hey, he's gonna go boating, D. Well, actually, I think, hey, Bailey, what are you complaining about? Pritzker said you can go boating, all right? Remember that, D? Only 2 guys to a boat now. Only 2.
Shout out to Radio Doogie again. He says, I don't think that Downstate Judge is a Bob Diber fan.
But we got to get down to business.
That was Bob Diber.
Oh, man. You're right, Radio. My greatest regret, did not vote for Bob Diber for governor. Yep, I should have done what D did and voted for Bob Diber, the Downstate Democrat. Great Democrat from Downstate.
All right, moving on. Let's talk some city news here. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Well, no public events scheduled for Mayor Lightfoot this Tuesday afternoon. Ben, it's sort of sunny. Looks like it's going to rain here. Tell us exactly at 1:44 p.m. I mean, aside from staying home and saving lives, what is Lori Lightfoot doing right now?
She's taking a walk along the lakefront.
Oh, yeah.
No, just kidding. That was just a joke, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to make it a haircut joke, okay? No haircut jokes.
Okay, well, aside from the snarky jokes, what do you think Lori Lightfoot's doing
I
right
know
now?
what she's doing.
What?
What she does every Tuesday through Friday at this time. She's listening to the Ben Joravsky Show.
Lord, you better hope not.
I think she's secretly one of those people who is sending you those messages, D.
What?
Yeah.
Speaking of messages, Ben, oh my goodness, what a host you've become lately. You're You're the segue master these days.
Radio school.
Guys, we have a voicemail. Oh, it's listener Babs' favorite time of the show where we play voicemails.
Babs is on. Babs wants Biden off the ticket. Okay, we'll get into that a little while later.
There's several ways to reach us, guys. You can reach us by email, bennyjshow@gmail.com, BENNY, the letter J show @gmail.com. You can find us on social media at Benny J Show. Once again, BENNY, the letter J show. And you can call us. The Ben Joravsky Show has its own phone number. Yeah, do what mom and dad used to do. Call us on the phone. 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. Leave a voicemail to the Ben Joravsky Show. I don't think we're going to answer the phone calls, but we're going to play your voicemails. So I think that's the goal here. Send us a voicemail, and we will play your voicemail. We got a voicemail from Dr. Phil last week. Remember that, Ben?
Doctor.
Dr. Phil keeps calling us.
He loves
We have another call from Dr. Phil.
Okay.
That's all we got right now, but let's play it here. It's
okay.
about 36 seconds long. Babs, hang in there, okay, pal? Once again, Dr. Phil is calling the Ben Joravsky Show.
You really care about me, don't you?
Oh, wait.
Don't take this the wrong way, but you mean nothing to me. Someone I give less thought to than a little.
Okay, this is not Dr. Phil, by the way.
I don't know who that is.
I thought it was another Dr. Phil.
I don't know.
So, okay, this is, okay, so it's Johnny Joe on the live stream chat that sends these. I just thought he was just I thought this was his bit. He just keeps calling us Dr. Phil. I don't know who, this sounds like Stewie from Family Guy or something. So, okay, maybe this isn't Dr. Phil. Let's just play it. As you can tell, I don't listen to these. We just play them live. So, okay, let's listen to this again. Not Dr. Phil. Let's try and figure out who this is.
You really care about me, don't you? Don't take this the wrong way, but you mean nothing to me. Someone I give less thought to than a little piece of popcorn stuck in my tooth. Oh, can you remove it? Now, down to business. The day of the Great Chicago Massacre. Is there some confusion about this? I did it all by myself. Tangle with me, and I'll crush you like a paper cup. See you back at the office. Don't be late. Wait a minute. The contractor said this was a bottomless pit. I'll have his license.
He sounds a little like Mr. Burns.
Okay, was that Mr. Burns?
Yeah,
I think
it
that was
sounds like
Johnny Joe. Yep,
Mr.
okay,
Burns.
yep, it was Mr. Burns.
Wow.
Well, I heard like 8 words out of that.
Yeah, I give him credit. It's actually not a bad.
Smithers. That was really good, Johnny Joe. You're good with voices. You did Dr. Phil last week. You did Mr. Burns this week. What other impressions you got? Do you do one of Ben?
By the way, D, can I just, before we leave the downstate issue?
Yeah.
There's a couple things I want to say.
We left it, but yeah, go ahead. Bring it back
Let me
up.
go back to it. Neil Early, who's really doing a great job for the Chicago Sun-Times. He must be from downstate Illinois because he's got all these downstate contacts. So he did a story, ran today's paper, where he was quoting various leaders from downstate Illinois and their response to the judge's ruling and Derick Bailey's lawsuit, and just in general all the restrictions and prohibitions that Governor Pritzker has put on them. And he tracked down this guy, Daryl Hickox, a member of the Jasper County Board. And Jasper is the county in southern Illinois. And Pritzker uses it to illustrate his larger point that even if you live downstate, the coronavirus can affect you. And I think there's this notion that the coronavirus only affects people who live in Chicago. There's just kind of this notion, like, well, it hasn't affected us yet, so it's only a Chicago thing. I think that's something that's gotten into people's minds in downstate. So Pritzker threw out the Jasper County reference, and then people in Jasper County responded by saying, well, it's only people dying in a nursing home, like their deaths don't count. Anyway, Daryl Hickox is his name. A member of the Jasper County Board disputed the numbers from the state public health officials, contending that, quote, nobody, that's in quote, in Jasper County had died from the coronavirus. And then this is the part that kills me. Metaphorically speaking, didn't literally. He said that members of the media who report on the pandemic are, quote, socialists, liberals, and communists, end of quote, okay? So he apparently doesn't believe anything he sees or reads in newspapers or TV, etc., because the people who are doing the reporting are socialists, liberals, and communists. Let me just say this. I know a lot of reporters in the media in Chicago do not know one communist. Not that there's anything wrong with somebody being a communist, just saying. Pretty bizarre. He threw the communists in there. Yeah, I know a couple socialists, and a lot of them are liberals, but communists? Anyways.
Hey, Johnny Joe, do you do Alf? Can you call in as Alf? He's taking requests, I think, on the live stream chat room. Johnny Joe, hey man, we're putting you on blast here, dude. Call in every week with a different impression. You did Dr. Phil, you did Mr. Burns, and people on the live stream chat are asking requests from Johnny Joe. Johnny Joe, man, you started it, all right? So keep it going. All right, and once again, the number, if you would like to send us a voicemail, I mean, you could just be your regular self. You don't have to do an impression. 708-658-4788. It could be a serious, whatever you want. It could be the voicemail, all right? Just watch your language because, as you just learned, I don't really listen to these beforehand.
Take really out of that sentence.
We just play them live.
Take really out of that sentence. There's no reason for really to be in that sentence.
I just remembered while we were doing this. All right, so moving on to city news. So times have changed, guys. Turns out during a pandemic, it may not be a good idea to have an awesome house party. Yeah, I know. We have 2 cases of this recently happening in Chicago, and interestingly enough, the response to each of these are a little different. First, let's talk about House Partygate. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Fran the Woman Spielman. Chicago police have cited the owner of a townhome that was the site of a large house party over the weekend, according to a Northwest Side alderman. Alderman Gilbert Villegas said that he convened a Monday meeting between the building owner and the commander of the CPD's Grand Central District, who issued the woman, quote, a couple citations for the public nuisance and gave her strict warnings, and we also have just put her on notice. Video footage over the weekend party in the 2000 block of North Narragansett quickly went viral. Clips posted to Facebook showed dozens of people crammed into the home, with everyone standing in very close proximity and hardly anyone wearing protective masks. Villegas, Mayor Lightfoot's floor leader in the city council, said the party was the doing of the building owner's adult son. The owner's son had a set of keys to the building and was able to disarm the home's alarm system. It was the second party he's thrown in the building in recent weeks. The home in Chicago's Galewood community is in Villegas' ward. Earlier in the day, Lightfoot vowed to, quote, get to the bottom of the party and hold everyone involved accountable for the public health risk. Lightfoot said the city is, quote, still in the midst of the investigation to identify the specific location of the party, which was captured on a shocking Facebook video. So shocking, people party, that already had been viewed more than 1 million times before it was taken down on Monday. The party is believed to have taken place somewhere on the west side, but City Hall is still, quote, nailing down specifics. The mayor argued everybody involved in the party bears a level of responsibility and will ultimately be held accountable. I'll do one more quote here from the mayor. She said, when you see a scene like that where you have literally, it looked to me like hundreds of people gathered in a small confined space, literally cheek to jowl like that, it goes against all of the things we've been talking about, all of the things that the vast majority of Chicagoans understand and know. They put themselves at risk, but not only that, every single person there who put themselves at risk puts the next person and the next person that they come into contact with at risk. That's why, for me, that scene is so distressing. But we'll get to the bottom of it. Ben, your thoughts?
Well, I added this to the list of people behaving poorly in the midst of this pandemic. It's Derick Bailey's not alone. In other words, there's quite a few people who either don't believe the medical authorities and that this is a serious pandemic and a health issue and they should separate and practice social distancing, or they're not paying attention and they don't even know they're in the middle of a pandemic. Now, I based on this party, the pictures that were on the front page of my beloved Bright One of the party, it seems like some people at the party were aware that we are in the midst of a pandemic, because I could just see literally there's some people with masks on, like this gentleman right here who's wearing a Bears hat and he has a mask and he's looking at his phone. So it's like really mixed message from that party. Like, dude, why would you go to the party with the mask? It's like, I don't know. It's like either you believe that we're in the middle of a pandemic and it's a serious health crisis, or you don't believe it. Either you're gonna go to the party, or you don't go to the party. Don't wear a mask. You know, it's like that's not really gonna help you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I believe it's. I have a list here. I have a list.
So the mask isn't going to help you?
I do not believe that the mask is going to help you if you're at a party like this. Take a look at how crowded that is. Everybody's on. Here's the gentleman with the mask. Look how people are all around him. How is that mask going to help him? I mean, you're asking for a lot from that mask. How do you even know? Where did you even get the mask? So it's just like everything is a mixed message these days. You know, Dennis's favorite one, and it's a great one. I have to give him credit for it. I wish I could say I was the one who came up with it. Everybody go out and vote, but stay inside. Which one is it? Did you see that, by the way? There was, oh my gosh, I should have sent it to you, D. We need better pre-show planning, all right?
Oh, boy, I've been trying to say that for like 2 years.
There's a comic, I'm blanking on her name, and she does this bit. We're going to play it tomorrow, where she does all the contradictions and all the mixed messaging of the coronavirus.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
Wear a mask, but don't wear a mask. You know, stay at home, but don't go for walks, but go for walks. And it's really funny.
Right.
And
everybody, but go to the grocery store where there's tons of people.
Yeah, you know, it's just so there's a lot of mixed messaging, and so it's easy not to take it serious. It's easy to drop your guard, but you know, this one is just is so bizarre. Mary Mitchell wrote a great column. I urge everybody to read it in the Chicago Sun-Times because it was in today's paper. Because the part that she addresses the fact that, and this is the part that people aren't going to talk about openly, but this is the part that's buried beneath it, is that it's a party filled with black people. And so, D, I got to tell you, I know there's a lot of people in the state of Illinois wearing that MAGA hat who don't believe that Governor Pritzker has a right to enforce prohibitions and restrictions that are trying to save lives, who cheering Darren Bailey on as he fights Pritzker in court, cheering that judge on when that judge rules in his favor, who are going to be really having a field day with this picture.
So is that going to be the future of our news here for the next like month or two? Just pictures of parties?
Well, I would hope that there's few parties to be pictured, but they pick and choose which parties go on the front page.
Yes, they
There was
do.
a party this weekend in West Riders Park.
Well, that's why that was our next story here. The following comes from Block Club Chicago.
Look at you with the transition.
We shouldn't be. We do this every day. It's kind of pathetic that we just don't do this normally anyway.
If you could read my mind, yeah. And he read my mind, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. This happened in West Ridge, and it comes from Block Club Chicago. A wedding ceremony at a West Ridge house was broken up by police last week and drew condemnation from the area's aldermen and religious leaders grappling with one of the biggest coronavirus hotspots in the state. A Jewish Orthodox wedding ceremony was held in the 6800 block of North Francisco Avenue the afternoon of April 23rd. Eventually, dozens of guests congregated on the home's front yard in the street, according to sources and video of the event. Police were called to the block and helped to disperse the crowd. Alderman Deborah Silverstein, Ben, of what ward?
Come on, D. Come on. 50th.
That's correct.
What a nerd. Police were called to the block and helped to disperse the crowd. Alderman Deborah Silverstein of the 50th Ward said in a note to constituents. Chicago police said it received 2 calls about public safety concerns at the wedding, a department spokesperson said. Let's see here. Silverstein wrote, "I'm absolutely horrified. Selfish gatherings of people, whether in celebration or in prayer, not only give our community a bad name, but they send our neighbors and loved ones to the hospital or morgue." Ben Joravsky, my question to you, I didn't see this on the Sun-Times, let alone the front page. It's in Block Club Chicago. very interesting what parties we choose to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so you have young black people on the west side of Chicago.
And they're going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, behaving foolishly. You got Orthodox Jews in West Riders Park behaving foolishly. Let's not forget our MAGA hat wearing brothers and sisters in Wisconsin this weekend. Don't forget them, D. Huh? They were as crowded as the party goers on the west side when they had their protests at the Capitol in Madison. They were behaving foolishly. Our good friend Derick Bailey, the state representative from downstate, he wants the right to have his own parties. Next week he's going to be in Galewood at this party. You watch Derick Bailey be like, "Woo woo party!" Okay, so he was. And how about? Need I forget? Remember the what do they call them? The Bros down in Florida. Remember those guys? Party on, excellent. I'm not going to let the Corona. Remember they called it the Corona. The Corona blow my good time. I got to party on.
So after May 31st, once the stay-at-home order is over, we'll see if it lasts longer. But as of right now, May 31st, when we see a picture of a party, will we? I feel like we're all turning into a bunch of Karens, if you know what I mean.
At some point, we will go back to something resembling normalcy. But the reality is this. The scientists and doctors and the people in the know are telling us for our own good, restrict interaction, stay at home, go do your show from the attic. That's what they're telling us. Now, again, is it what, that you hear them but you don't believe them? I think some of these people at this party, some of those wedding celebrants in West Riders Park, and some of the MAGA hat wearers in Wisconsin, and clearly the governor, the board member downstate in Jasper County, they don't believe the experts. They figure, I haven't got it, so it doesn't exist. Or they're completely ignorant and don't know what's going on. You don't know why they're in seclusion. But it's a combination of both. And so if you're going to take seriously the advice given to you by the experts, you got to put up with this restrictions on your life with the notion that sooner or later, someday, it will come to an end. And let's hope it's the restrictions that come to an end, not life as we know it. So yeah, I think, D, for the next month, every time there's a party where there's a large gathering of people violating all the rules and regulations, we're going to hear about it. They should have put that picture of the party on the front page of the paper that took place in West Ridge as well, so it doesn't look as though it's just people on the west side who are breaking the rules and behaving irresponsibly.
Yeah, it says here, too, this was on WTTW.com when this first broke out. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot is asking residents to anonymously report tips about house parties after a Saturday night bash in Chicago. So, yeah, she's saying here to anonymously report tips. Now, before all this began, there's a word for that, snitching.
No, stop. Now you're sounding like a Chicago alderman. They're mad at, Solis is a snitch. He snitched on Ed Burke. Snitching is bad.
It is, right? Before this, I mean,
they're snitching, and then
there were so many memes of Karen doing the, hello, I'd like to report that. We were all, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's just very interesting times we're in here. Eventually, we all got to get back to normal, right?
Someday we'll get back to normal, I hope. Someday. I don't know when it'll be, but it's not right now. So right now, this party is not a good idea. That wedding in West Ridge, not a good idea. And all those MAGA hatters on the steps in Wisconsin, not a good idea. Unless it's possible that Derick Bailey, the judge ruled in his favor, these partiers on the west side, the wedding celebrants in West Ridge, and the MAGA hat wearers in Madison. Maybe it's possible that they're right and all the experts are wrong. Maybe that's the case.
Maybe it's in the middle, and we're all just throwing each other under the bus. Who knows? But we're going to find out eventually, right? All right. I guess that's our news. Or anything else you'd like to riff on here on the local news, Ben, going on?
Now, I'm going to hold this off. I got some stuff I wanted to riff on, but it'll hold for tomorrow.
All right. Don't go anywhere, everybody. Coming up, political strategist, good friend of the Ben Joravsky Show. We call him PC. Maybe he'll play a song over the phone with his acoustic guitar. Who knows? Stick around to find out. It's Peter Cunningham talking all things politics. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from Ben's attic.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from Ben's attic. Peter Cunningham, are you with us?
Hello, this is Peter.
Peter, you sound absolutely beautiful. How are you doing today, young man?
I'm doing great, brother.
Yeah, you hanging in there?
Yep. Hanging in there.
Hanging in there. Peter Cunningham comes on the show about once a month or so. And he worked, as I always say, he worked for Mayor Daley back in the day. He worked for Arnie Duncan when Arnie was the education secretary. He was sort of an unofficial advisor to Rahm Emanuel. And he is now gently, in my humble opinion, trying to steer the Democrats to a more progressive vision in the hopes that they don't completely abandon all their values as they move right to defeat Donald Trump. Do you think that's an accurate assessment of what you're trying to do these days, Peter?
It's pretty close, pretty close. I don't think any Democrats are moving right these days, are they? I think they're pretty much all moving left.
Yeah, they're moving left.
And that's a salute. It's a salute to Bernie and the millennial generation that's pushing hard on the boomers, etc. And the older folks like you and I guess like me as well. I'm in that same category. Who,
I guess you're not that much younger than me, young man. You're like a year younger. Man, you're about 2 years younger. Oh, older people like you, Ben. Yeah. All right, listen. Yeah. So before we get into the national news, and I got a lot of national news I want to talk to you about. One of the things we always talk about when you come on the show is policing issues. This is a passion of yours and a concern of yours. We didn't do a lot of discussion of this, Peter, last week when it went down. We've been so obsessed with national news and the pandemic and what Trump's up to and the efforts to beat Trump. We'll get into all those issues. But we have a new police chief here in the city of Chicago, David Brown. And as you pointed out to me, he got off to a stumbling start last week. Talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I mean, there's a lot going on. First of all, the organization I do some work with called CRED launched a new kind of a hotspot strategy focused on, hiring guys to intervene directly in the places where the violence is most acute. It's really challenging work, but that's happening. I think it's great, and it's starting a month earlier this year because we've had a pretty aggressive month when it comes to gun violence. January and February, I should say aggressive year. January and February were up dramatically. March was a little better, but April starting off again is a little rough. So that's one thing that's happening. The city also just gave $7 million to some other violence prevention organizations under the umbrella called Communities Partnering for Peace. That's great. And then we have a new police chief, as you say. And, we're all hopeful that he's the right guy for the job and that he's going to turn it around. But I was struck by a story in the Sun-Times on Thursday. I think it actually came out Friday. where he was apologizing to aldermen for pulling officers from the Northwest Side to create a greater police presence on the West Side and the South Side, where the violence is most acute. It felt to me as very much like he sort of got a little flat back on his first day on the job. And it kind of was like, welcome to Chicago. This is the Chicago way. This is how we do things. If you want to manage your police department, you've got to check with us first, which of course is crazy. He works for the mayor, and having to ask aldermen for permission to shift resources would be crazy. But that's what happened.
Well, do you think that it was a prudent move to move police officers from relatively low crime areas on the Northwest sides to higher crime areas on the West Side?
Well, I think I'm mixed about it because, the big challenge for the Chicago Police Department is not only to reduce gun violence, but also to rebuild trust. And you rebuild trust by having officers who have taken the time to get to know the community and are having more of a collaborative approach to policing as opposed to a enforcement approach to policing. And, you bring in a bunch of guys who haven't been thinking about that and haven't been trained to think about that to come in to create a police presence. And before you know it, you get a bunch of incidents like one that was on video last week. It was unbelievable. It had all hallmarks of exactly what you shouldn't want. First of all, they call it a surge, which is a military term, and I don't think that's a good term to be using. And secondly, you saw all the pictures of the cops, mostly white, barking and yelling at African Americans on the street, telling them to move around, and the kids, how the young men are, they start challenging them and questioning them, and their phones are all up and showing the videos. It just was really a bad start. So I think he's got a lot to learn about not only changing the culture of the police department, but rebuilding trust and at the same time reducing gun violence. So I'm not sure would have been my first move, but he certainly needs the right to be able to assign police as he sees fit to where the need is greatest.
Well, just as a practical matter, I don't see anything wrong with consulting with an alderman before you make such a move. If nothing else,
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. I just think that the fact that it became public and and that he was put on the spot like that in his first day on the job just felt a little bit unfair to him. Somebody should have told him that, or somebody should have helped him figure that out. Or there's a protocol when you make a move like this. There's a communications tree. Who do you call? Who needs to make the call? Who calls who? All that stuff happens, and it should happen. It needs to reorganize. And this is literally his first day on the job.
Yeah.
And whoever was advising him didn't do it to him. I just wonder whether the guys around him, could have served him a little bit better in that regard.
There's many possibilities. You're absolutely correct. He didn't understand Chicago and didn't understand the symbolic role that an alderman plays, and the fact that an alderman, they have entree to the media. So if they're upset, they can call a reporter or call a news station and get on the TV and raise a ruckus and cause a moment of political consternation for a police chief like David Brown. So, yes, that's something very specific to Chicago, the bully pulpit that an alderman has. And when I see him not contact a local alderman, I got to believe it's possibility, Peter, that the people who are advising him were okay with him stumbling out of the gates. That's another thing in Chicago. Mr. Big Shot from Texas.
Right. Absolutely. I have to believe that some of the guys around says, okay, chief, whatever you say, we'll go for it. And knowing that as soon as that order goes out to the commander of the Northwest Side, that commander calls the alderman.
Yeah.
And the alderman calls the media, and next thing you know, you got a problem.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, just the fact that it happened on day one just really jumped out at me. Like, okay, we needed to, let's help this guy here. This guy's new to Chicago. We all want him to succeed. And he just, I just thought it was a little unfair the way it came out. And my impression of him is that he's not the kind of guy who just walks in with a big foot, tells everybody to move out of the way and do whatever but he's, he wants to learn. He wants to understand the culture. I talked to people who've talked with him, and they say he's a really good guy. And so, we all want him to succeed. And the violence prevention community really wants him to succeed. And, the situation is getting tense. It's about to warm up. We have about a month before Memorial Day, and that's usually the start of the the warm season. So I just thought it was an interesting thing. It felt like a classic Chicago episode. And, he apologized. He did the right thing. Let's save face. Let's, hit reset real quick. So hopefully it'll work out.
Yeah, maybe in 4 years he'll be laughing about it. Though, listen, it's been kind of rough in Chicago on police chiefs in the last 6 months. I still think that Eddie Johnson got a bum deal. I may be the only one in Chicago who feels that way, but
I agree with you, actually. I agree with you. I think it could have been handled differently also.
Yeah, the guy stepped up at a very precarious time for Chicago, to put it mildly, right after Laquan McDonald. There was so much political fallout, and he had a very difficult job trying to be a bridge between various communities that seemed to be at each other's throats. And I think he did a pretty good job, Peter. And then that's how they treated him.
Yeah, and you look at the same situation in Washington where you have career staff like Fauci who thrust into the spotlight, and they're giving you their very best advice. And suddenly you have political staff around them who are either kicking them under the table or kicking them in the shins or downshifting them or just, interfering with their message. And, when I worked out there in Washington, we had the stimulus plan in 2009. And the political guys like me who just came in and were appointed, had no idea how to do anything. These guys knew exactly how to do everything. They knew how to write the rules to get the money out the door quickly. They knew exactly how it should work. They knew who to call on the Hill to get approvals and who to call over the White House and how to just make the system work so that the money could get out the door. We had the money, in the hands of school districts and states by May. That stimulus was passed in February, and by May, that money was, helping protect teaching jobs. And, so career staff, they should be honored and valued for that. And, if they make a mistake, throwing them under the bus is just never a good idea. So, I'm sort of a fan of them.
Before I go back to Washington full time, let's just stay in Chicago for a moment. We were talking yesterday about what we're going to go through today, and you made a pretty interesting observation. Love you to share it with our listeners. So, as a preamble, last week, Mayor Lori Lightfoot had a showdown with the Chicago City Council over the issue of her decision to have basically universal control over contracts that are intended to fight COVID-19, most of which will come from the Fed, some come from the state. Traditionally, the city council gets a say. We have a system of government, Peter, that the kids are all taught about. You have a checks and a balance. You have an executive, and you have a legislative branch. And
I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's kind of what they teach us in high school in civics class. But Lori Lightfoot declared that we're in a mid-emergency, and as a result, she needs to take full control over these contracts at least through June. She did agree to rescind this order, this power, this authority in June. The city council had a mini revolt. And by the way, after our interview with Peter, we're going to be taking a deeper dive with Dave Glowatz on that mini revolt. But the interesting thing, she won, she prevailed, so she took control of the council. In doing so, Peter, a couple things I want to say. She really started to remind me of your old boss. Richard M. Daley. Her rhetoric, her short temper, her irritation at individual aldermen. I've said this more than once. She really, I think you had left working for Daley at that moment in 2010. I think it was when Daley got really mad at Fioretti. Alderman Fioretti, it was like, if you don't want to go, I think it was a tax hike initiative. I forget why he was mad at him, but he was talking about we're just going to pull the CTA from your ward. How would you like that, Fioretti? Do you remember that one? Am I alone?
I don't, but that's the equivalent of Trump's Twitter. The occasional shout that says, "Hey, you want to play hardball? Here's how it goes." But here's the thing. Yes, I worked for a strong mayor who believed strongly that if he was going to run the city, he needed the freedom and the flexibility to do it. That doesn't mean he didn't respect the legislature. He was a former legislator himself, state senator. But we have situations where you can't delay. You lose opportunities if you delay, and that's what Lysol was saying. She was basically saying we're in a crisis here, and if we need to move quickly, I need that flexibility to do that. And so I think that's the positive side of this, which is okay. Is it a power grab, or are you actually really looking out for people to do the right thing? Is it a way to steer contracts to your friends, or is it a way to make sure that the bureaucracy or political paralysis doesn't get in the way of serving people, especially in a crisis? So I give her the benefit of the doubt. I think Mayor Lightfoot is I think deeply committed to serving people well. I don't see her as a power-hungry person by any means. I see her as somebody who's trying to bring good government into Chicago, and so I'm with her on this one.
All right. If I had been an alderman, as unlikely as that is, I would have voted with the 21 who voted against her on the grounds that I do not believe that she, under the current system, would have her hands tied on getting any amount of money she needs for any COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
I would have made the opposite vote from you, which is probably not surprising given our backgrounds, where I come from, where you come from, that kind of thing. But what was interesting and was how some of the aldermen voted and things.
Yeah, you would have been on the opposite side of Scott Wagner.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
It's a progressive. But, this is the way it works, which is that, you're on the outside, and then suddenly you get on the inside, and, you put on a completely different hat, right?
Yeah.
Scott Wagner's now, his job is to, support the mayor with her agenda and to make sure that the council, goes along with what the mayor is trying to do. Does that mean that Scott Wagner can't call the mayor and say, listen, I think you're really on the wrong track on this one? Of course he can. I would imagine he has. And I assume she, has enough respect for him to listen to him. But he's on the inside now. It's like when you take over a school system, you spend all this time, blaming the leadership and complaining about it, and then you're in charge. Now suddenly you're responsible for the truancy rate, and you're responsible for the grad rate and the test scores and for the outcomes and everything like that. Next thing you know, you start to cherry pick data and make a case. So it happens all the time. So.
Well, you called it yesterday. It was a great line, which I'm going to steal and use all the time, a political pivot. And it wasn't just Scott Wagasback who made a political pivot. My old friend Scott Wagasback, who is, as you were pointing out, is now the finance chair. And what's so bizarre about Chicago, again, we talked about a division between the legislative and executive branch. Essentially, the mayor determines who the chairs of the various city council committees are, which, of course, is a violation of all these precepts, these principles of a split between executive and legislative. So, yes, he's part of her team. If he wants to be the chair of the finance committee, he has to go along with what she says. The old chair of the finance committee, who was the chair throughout the Daley years and the Rahm years, Ed Burke, is now on the outs. He's under indictment. Yep. And he voted with the rebels. So
yeah,
Peter,
so you and Ed are on one side of this issue, and me and Scott are on the other side of the issue. Okay,
yeah.
This is a historic moment.
Don't think that was lost on me, Peter.
Yeah.
You stick around long enough, and anything will happen. But that's called a political pivot, and it happens all the time. All right, let's go over to Washington. And let's talk about Donald Trump. And, of course, last week was either a high point if you think of him as a performance artist or a low point if you think of him as a president when he got it in his head. It might be a good idea for people to inject disinfectants into their system to kill the coronavirus.
Right.
As a political strategist.
Apparently he was only kidding, though.
Yeah, he was
only a prank.
He said it was sarcasm. Yeah. So, what do you think? Should Donald Trump stop participating in the briefings?
He should. Yes, he has no business giving those briefings, and the media should stop broadcasting it around the clock. They just keep giving him so much time and attention because, I guess he's good for their ratings, and he's good for the ratings because people are just watching the reality TV show to see what crazy thing he's going to say next. And I think he understands that better than anybody. And, and so far, his base has not punished him for his horrific and irresponsible leadership. They're still standing continue with it. And so, I've been humbled by this whole thing because everything I seem to understand about politics, that people behave rationally, at least I think some people do, that they behave rationally, that they act in their own self-interest, and that they, use judgment in determining what to believe doesn't seem to be true in this case. He seems to be able to say anything he wants, seems to be able to contradict himself, and he's still got solid support in the Republican Party. I don't get it. I really don't. Either way, I think he should stop because we're in a crisis, and I don't think he has anything positive to offer to anybody. I think, it's clear that some of the people on the task force are very level-headed, knowledgeable, and that they have a lot of useful information to share. And so, I just turn the sound down. I have CNN on a lot during the day, but I turn the sound down. And when he comes on, I change the channel.
Well, the reality, Peter, is that news operations are also a business, and Trump's very proud of what I'm about to say. He drives ratings. It is a form of entertainment. I've lived through a lot of presidents, never seen one like this, and so it's almost like, what's he going to do this time? And people tune in. So the council, the notion that CNN or any of them would not pay attention to Trump is an unrealistic one, because they want people to watch them, and they know that if they turn off Trump, the people will just go to another network.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. People are sort of mesmerized by his madness, and so they stay with him. So, I don't know what to do about that. I think I still have to believe that common sense prevails over, shock value. But, maybe I'm naive about that. I believe Biden's got a really good chance to beat him. And I think he has to do it by playing to his strength as a champion of the middle class, as someone with experience, and someone who will, frankly, end the carnival circus that has become, the deceitful circus that has become Trump's trademark, and just bring back, stable leadership in the country. Is it enough to get us where we need to go? No, we need to go a lot further. I actually read your piece the other day, Hey Joe, about what Joe needs to do to reach out to progressives. I've also been looking at his platform, and I think it's a lot more progressive than people give him credit for. More and more people are coming around that point of view. First of all, a lot of Bernie people are now getting involved in Joe's campaign. There's a new super PAC, which Bernie's against, but it's run by Bernie's guys that's supporting Biden's campaign. Your advice to him was forget the super hardcore Bernie bros, focus on African American turnout, and reach out across the aisle to the more moderate Bernie bros. Right? That was basically what you were saying.
Yeah,
guys like you.
Guys like me.
Guys who still want to win.
Well,
if you disagree with them on some of the issues.
Yes. I broke it down to 3 categories of Bernie supporters. I've talked about this in the show, but I'll just repeat it. 3 categories of Bernie supporters, and this precedes Bernie, Peter, because these are just lefties, and I've lived among lefties my whole life, so I know the breed. And there's the lefty that will hold his nose and vote for the Democratic candidate, pretty much regardless of who that Democratic candidate is, and I'm in that category. And I'll really be mad at myself and angry, and I'll resent it, and I'll complain to Peter Cunningham about how Barack Obama is selling us out, but I will have voted for him twice, okay? Then there's the lefty who will hold his nose and vote for the Dems, but only if he or she lives in a swing state. Yeah, they figured out the Electoral College. Oh, yeah, well, if I live in Illinois, I'm voting green. Okay, there's that lefty. And then there's the lefty that you're not going to win, no matter what you say, what you do, because they're real hardcore left. And that's why I always – and they put stuff out on Twitter, and then the Bidens of the world, or the Biden supporters fight with them on Twitter, and they get really mad at them. And I'm like, why are you what do you expect? You guys are on different planets. It's like people still mad, Peter, at
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. On the issues, what do you think is the single issue where Joe is furthest away from Bernie And how many issues are there like that, in your opinion?
The biggest issue, and the one that has been the most nagging and difficult for me to comprehend, is healthcare. I do not understand why Joe Biden is so resistant to Bernie's Medicare for All plan, particularly now we're in a pandemic and people are losing their jobs. Our healthcare system is tied, you know this, our healthcare system is tied to employment. If you don't have a job, you lose your healthcare or you're in a precarious state. And guess what?
Right.
Thousands and thousands of people are without jobs. And when I had a political discussion with my dear friend Mick Dumke, who's very pragmatic, and he said, Ben, still 70, I go 30%, we have unemployment rates approaching 30%. He goes, still there's 70% that are employed. And I just feel like logic like that, which is like a prevalent logic, I think, among Democrats, will work against them. So I do not understand why Joe Biden doesn't just move left on this. Peter, I've seen so many politicians flip. We just talked about it, a pivot. We talked about how Scotty Wagasback flipped. Okay, his first 12 years in office, he never would have voted for giving the mayor that much power. He's now on the mayor's team. Yeah. He votes for it. Okay, Ed Burke makes the reverse pivot. So I don't. Why doesn't Joe Biden just say, you know what, Bernie, you're right, Medicare for all? Explain to me why he won't do that.
So, 180 million people in America, something like that, get their health care through their employers. And I think it's probably down 25 million by now over the last month. But it's still a pretty significant amount of people. And I think it's hard for them. You know, I'm one of them, by the way. And but I haven't had a lot of medical issues, so I'm actually not the hardest guy to convince to make the shift. But people who have had medical issues are terrified. They're just terrified that things will be worse for them. You know, they know their doctors, and you ask basically half the country to sort of jump off the cliff with you on this issue. So I think that's one thing. The polls that I've seen show that about 42% of people support Medicare for all. So, you know, among the overall population, not among Democratic primary voters, it's higher among primary voters. So there's some showing that needs to be done for the general population. And I think that, you know, he's trying to get elected president. The country is not sold on this as the right thing to do yet. And so he is who he is, 48 years in Washington. This is how somebody who's been around Washington for 48 years operates. He looks at where people are. He looks at the narrative and what needs to happen. And yes, he also looks at the policy, that it's the best policy for all Americans. And I think that you factor all of those things in and say, okay, maybe we can get there over time. I don't know that we can get there right now in one move. And that's what Bernie wants to do. I think most of the Democrats who are running, who are for Medicare for all who want it, as the Buttigieg Judge called it, but basically public option, we're all basically saying, you know, over time, I'm not afraid of Medicare for all. I'm just trying to figure out how to bring people to a point where they support it. And right now, they're not quite there. So, I mean, it's partly political pragmatics, and that's who we are. That's who we have. But we pick the pragmatist, Joe Biden, over an idealist, Bernie Sanders. So, to some degree, we have to honor the will of the voters. They said we want a pragmatist. We're afraid of an idealist right now. So, but I think on so many other issues, I mean, Washington Post says Joe Biden has fully embraced the Green New Deal. Now, will he embrace every single line in the bill? I don't know. But he's fundamentally on board with a big infrastructure plan that tilts green. So I think he's in a pretty good place there. I think he's definitely changed his position on criminal justice reform from, when he pushed the crime bill back in the 90s. I think on a lot of issues, he's actually pretty well aligned with progressive.
Well, in this, I mentioned this in that story that you alluded to. I do not put this in the same category as healthcare for all. But another issue which baffles me is his opposition to the legalization of marijuana or cannabis, as I'm being asked to call it these days. Peter, I do not get that at all. I
don't really either. And that's actually one that is hugely popular. Yeah. 2/3 of the country favors that. I'm not sure why. hung up on that. I mean, he's just an old guy. Maybe that's his problem there. I mean, again, I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just giving you a theory for why.
Well, whenever a Dem tells me that Joe Biden's an old guy, I like to point out he's roughly Paul McCartney's age. He's roughly John Lennon's
who still
age.
performs live.
Who still and smokes reefer. Okay, that was the point I was going to make.
Oh, I see.
I mean, all those '60s rock stars that were smoking marijuana, all those people at Woodstock, they're Joe Biden's age. So
I was working for Hickenlooper for a while, and that was, I think, one of the first states to completely legalize marijuana. And he was actually against it, but he got dragged into supporting it as governor. And he said there was only one age group where usage rose after it was legal. Old people. The boomers. The boomers were suddenly saying, let's go. And, so it's kind of funny. I think that, from everything I read about and hear about these people, there are so many different applications now that are being developed with cannabis that, little ointments that you rub on the joint that's kind of tight, that feels better. And I think the whole country's going to be using it.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't understand where he is on that one. I can tell you he's not for a wealth tax, which is another one of Bernie's big plans, but he's definitely for taxing the rich more. I can tell you that he's not for full free college, but he's definitely for a version of it for people, I think, earning under 125K. He's not for completely eliminating student debt, but he's for eliminating an awful lot of it for an awful lot of people. Just not everybody.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I think he's someone that says, let me be your president, and I'll bring us together and solve some of these issues together. It's not about saying this is what I want to do, and I'm the right one, and you have to follow me. It's more like let me get the wheels of government working again. Including on the Hill and everything like that, and we can make progress on all these issues. So that's his basic argument. It's a very different argument than Bernie's, who was saying, no, we essentially need a revolution.
Yeah,
we need a revolution because the current system doesn't work. And it's hard to argue with Bernie on that one. I mean, I get him. There's a reason why he was popular with a segment of the voters. He just, at the end of the day, he ultimately didn't have enough people with him.
Oh.
I mean, I think we just have to face that.
Yeah. I know. Trust me, Peter. I've learned to face the fact that I'm usually on the losing side of these political battles. Now, the other part about Biden, I sent you this before we went in air. We didn't talk about it yesterday. Is the latest developments in Tara Reade's accusation against him, and Dems don't want to face this.
Yep.
They don't want to. They want to pretend this issue does not exist. They want to pretend Tara Reade does not exist. They want to pretend her accusations don't exist. And you know how the game goes, Peter. Every day there's a drib and a drab. Something new comes out, and it's not going to go away just because you ignore it. And what I sent you earlier today was the clip from Larry King's show back in the day. What, 1993? I want to say. That allegedly is Tara Reade's mom. You can play that? We're going to play that one right now, Peter. Go ahead.
San Luis Obispo, California. Hello.
Yes, hello. I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all. And the only thing she could have done was go to the press, and she chose not to do it out of respect for him.
Or she had a story to tell, but out of respect for the person she worked for, she didn't tell it.
That's true.
Now, but these are the people who do come to the Lois Romanos, right? The staff worker who says, I want to let you know about what's going on, either with my boss or the guy down the hall.
And a lot of these people have a sense of obligation. They feel that this public official should be accountable if it's something
They're
wrong.
whistleblowers to the press.
All right, couple things, Peter, before I get your response. I have to say this. I haven't said this yet. Dennis knows this. I have always been a huge fan of Larry King, and I used to listen to his show. He had the late night talk show, and just hearing that, I'm talking about 80s, Peter, when he was on the radio before he went to CNN, and he would, just so pretty, Richmond, Virginia, hello. I just hearing that, it brings back all these memories. Listen to Larry.
Yeah, no, he was a master of the art form. He's still at it, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still at. I think. Well, I don't want to say. Is he on RT? He's Russia TV.
I don't know. I know he's got a Larry King Now show. I
Yeah.
watch it on YouTube a lot.
I saw him. He, by the way, has great. We're on a tangent here, but he has these great seats at Dodger games. And so I don't know if you're a baseball fan, Peter, but in the World Series, when the Dodgers are in the World Series, and the camera is going over to the shoulder of the pitcher as he looks in for the catcher's sign, you see Larry King sitting there. He's got his Dodger hat on and everything. Great seats for Larry. God bless Larry King. All right, let's get to the matter. I consider this a very serious allegation, and I feel as though I'm alone among Democrats in this. Most Democrats, I get the feeling, just don't even want to hear about it. They just want to beat Donald Trump so bad that they don't care about what Tara Reid is saying or whether her story is true or not. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that, the smart move for the Biden campaign is just to confront it and say, right now they're all saying we have no memory of this, right? They're, they're closing ranks and saying we have no memory of it. And that feels a little bit inadequate, to put it mildly. I think that the smarter move is to say, we've looked into it. The vice president's memory of Tara is, she worked for him for a month, 2 months. I don't know how long she worked for him. He has no memory of the incident, but he does apologize for anything she experienced. When she's not filing she's not suing him. She's not filing charges against him. It's 30 years old. But what you shouldn't do is dismiss it, because we're not into the dismissal business. On the other hand, we've also got a record of being sort of holding ourselves to, a much higher standard than the other side, and that's good because we're Democrats and we, have different values than certainly than the Trump wing of the Republican Party. But it's an old story. It's 28 years old, and anytime something like that happens, it's reasonable to be skeptical about why it suddenly emerged. On the other hand, it's not justified to dismiss it. I think the right thing to do is to apologize for it and say I'm sorry if there was confusion about it. I don't remember the incident, and I'm very sorry that she was upset by it. I think that's the right thing to do. If it was me, that's what I'd do. Rather than saying it didn't happen, which is what they're saying now. Those are my thoughts.
Well, my suggestion remains the same as it was 2 weeks ago. Joe Biden should step down as the Democratic nominee, and Brett Kavanaugh should step down from the Supreme Court, and the next president should get to fill that vacancy. I believe that.
But that's not going to happen. So
I know.
That's not going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen.
Not going to step down.
I know.
And
Was
Al Franken right to leave the U.S. Senate for what he did, in your opinion?
Yes, I think he was.
Really?
In that particular time, I absolutely think his was. And
I don't think so. I think he should have apologized and stayed in.
Well, part of what I'm saying is, finish your thought. Go ahead.
I was going to say, people make mistakes. He was a comedian, whatever. They had, I only looked at a couple of things there. I only saw some of the performances, his body and all that kind of stuff. He's goofing off. He's being a fool, but whatever. She claimed he did something she didn't like. Apologize for it, okay? But why destroy his career? Is that the goal here, to destroy his career?
I feel he
Joe's
crossed the line.
Joe's had a long career.
Yeah.
But,
if the accusation against Joe Biden is true,
right,
then that
we
crosses.
have no idea.
Yes.
So we have no idea if that's true. Right, in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty.
That's correct.
There is no way for anybody to prove that. Okay? She had an experience, and if we're to believe, the evidence that's starting to surface, she didn't completely make it up, but maybe she saw it differently than he saw it. Either way, we have no way of knowing that. I think he should apologize and move on. That's what he should do. I don't think he should step down because of it. That's my opinion.
All right. Well, I'll close it with this. I'm now convinced that no matter who the Dems put up, that person will beat Trump. So Joe Biden could quit tomorrow and Peter Cunningham could step in and he would beat Donald Trump. I believe that Trump crossed the line. All right, maybe not Peter Cunningham. All that marijuana use in the 80s would catch up with you. But that's just a joke, ladies and gentlemen. But I believe that Donald Trump has crossed the line in the way he's handling the coronavirus, and he's lost. You and I used to talk about the swing voters all the time, Peter. You know, swing voters in Wisconsin.
So right now, he's 9 points underwater. Okay, 52 to 43, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's been as recently as 3 or 4 weeks ago, he was 3.5. He's under 4 points underwater. So his base has been absolutely consistent. He's been down as little as the mid to high 30s, but he's mostly been in the 40s for his entire time. And by the way, Barack Obama and Bill Clinton were both just a little bit higher in terms of popularity. This is just popularity polls. Just a little bit higher in terms of popularity this time in their first terms. So, you know, this thing is not over by any means. And I think that, you know, he's proven to be much more resilient and resourceful and unethical and, you know, than anybody gets. So I would not say this thing is open. I don't think anybody can beat him. Who would you have step in? Bernie?
Well, that would be I voted for Bernie, but the reality is that 65% of the party did not. So, I mean, I am a realist to a certain degree, Peter. Even though I've been
as is, by the way, a whole bunch of old lefties. Did you see that thing in The Nation where a bunch of people from SDS signed a letter telling all the young progressives to get behind Biden? And Don Rose. Has Don ever been on your show? He must.
Oh yeah, Don's been on the show. Yeah, I love Don Rose. Yeah, he's on that list.
He just wrote a piece basically saying the same thing.
Yeah.
He's like, come on, guys, we got to beat Trump. It's more important than anything. Whatever your problems are with Biden, we got to beat Trump.
Listen, Peter, I say that every year. Every election I say. I said it 4 years ago with Hillary Clinton. You know, it wasn't that. It really wasn't necessary to say it during the Obama years, but I said it with John Kerry in 2004. I said it with Michael Dukakis in 1988. I wanted Jesse Jackson. That was my candidate in 1988. So I'm always having to say that. It's an old refrain. But again, I told you.
Yeah. What I always come back to, Ben, is that we have to build public will for the country we want. I wrote a piece recently saying that we need a new normal. Okay,
Yeah.
2 million guys behind bars. That's not the normal we need to go back to. Okay, the old normal is 700 or 800 billion a year on defense. We need to get out of that normal. You know, the old normal is kids struggling in schools and tons of people without health care and wages, too low, and CEOs making 300 times as much as, the employees on the line. And, the top 1% of the country owning 90% of our wealth. That's the old normal. We need a new normal.
Right.
Okay? And in order to build a new normal, we have to build public will for a much more robust safety net. And it's not there right now. The Republicans have been much more organized about saying that higher taxes are a bigger threat to your freedom than a weakened safety net. Higher taxes are a bigger threat to your security, your family, than a weakened safety net. And we have to convince them otherwise. And when we do that, that next candidate will look and sound a lot more like Bernie Sanders. He'll be advocating for what the public really wants. Right now, you ask guys, do you want a bigger safety net? Do you want to give free college? Not everybody's there. So, you have to. Go ahead.
Listen, if this is going to be the start of something new, okay. But Peter, I can go back. Every single Democratic candidate, every single Democratic president has betrayed what I consider the core values of the Democratic Party are. And every time they do that, it moves the agenda a little more to the right and feeds cynicism that is so rampant. So when old lefties lecture youngsters about how they should vote for Biden because he's better than Trump, I can understand that. But I look at something as recently as 2010, 2011 in Wisconsin, where the Scott Walker and the Republican Party went after the unions, the public worker unions in Wisconsin, and were successfully knocked knocked him off at the knees, cut him off at the knees. And the Obama administration was largely silent in that. And
not only Duncan.
Did he march
I
with?
stood with him right in front. And well, I can just tell you one incident. We were at an event with Walker, and you know, I mean, I wrote through a speech on it where we very explicitly criticized Walker for that bill. But nevertheless, broadly speaking, the Democratic Party establishment did not do enough to protect our unions in that state. I mean, maybe they didn't know how to, maybe they didn't have the resources to do it, but it didn't happen either way. Fair point.
Well, yeah, and so that's why it's so now if we're gonna have a new normal, okay, but it's very important for even old lefties to realize that the Democratic Party has been very inconsistent down through the years. Maybe it's a new day. All right, Peter, we're going to have to let you go. But what folks want to read that story. It was in the Sun-Times. When did it run? It was last week, Finding a New Normal?
Yeah, it was last week. If you just Google my name and New Normal, you'll probably find it. And I'll keep making the same points. I started a new blog called EPEE, E-P-E-E. That stands for Economics, Politics, and Everything Else. And, you know, I'm just using it to, you know, vent, basically. Because I often write a lot of things that I don't necessarily get placed. And you know what EPEE is, of course, right? It's a store for carrying and thrusting, which is what we're doing then, right?
Yes. Wait, Peter, what's the, what is it called again?
E-P-E-E.
Gotcha, 3 E's. E-P-E-E, very good. All right, Peter, you take care. Stay safe, play your guitar, and when we're back at the studio, which one day we will be back at the studio, you'll come in and sing us a song, all right?
Yeah, I'm actually been doing some recording. Maybe I'll send you one. You can play it.
Please do. Please do. We've been playing. Some of our listeners have sent us some really cool material. We've been playing it. So as soon as you have it ready, just send it to me or Dennis, and we'll play it, all right?
Okie doke.
All right, that's Peter Cunningham. Thank you very much, Peter.
PC, we have some updates here before we roll out of here. Hey, Ben, remember that one time former Chicago mayoral candidate Willie Wilson sought to sell face masks to the city and the state?
I do remember that.
And
yes.
then remember when both J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Lightfoot were like, no thanks, dude. Remember
Yes,
that?
I remember that, yes.
Well, the following comes from Block Club Chicago. Willie Wilson donates 1 million masks. He did this today. Dozens of aldermen gathered outside the Thompson Center this morning as local businessman and ex-mayoral candidate Willie Wilson dolled out 20,000 masks for all of Chicago's 50 wards. So maybe he listens to the Ben Joravsky show. That was my advice.
That
Dude,
was Dr. D. Yep.
give him the masks.
I remember when you said it. I was like, well, blew my mind. Because I was like, who do I believe in this one? Willie Wilson or Lori Lightfoot? And then Dennis, it's that downstate practicality, folks. It's that Alton pragmatism. He goes, why don't you just give them away? I was like, bang, the light went on. Oh, yeah, just give them away.
Yeah, worry about the money or something. Hey, you owe me. How about that? What about a you owe me, right? Hey, here's these masks. You owe me. How about that? Okay, it says here, a wall of boxes containing the 1 million masks lined Randolph Street, and aldermen showed up to pick up the boxes by the truckload. Wilson owns a medical supply company, so this makes sense. Let's see here. Alderman Ed Burke. Oh, Burger King Burke. Alderman Ed Burke presented Wilson with a Chicago City Council special aid badge and thanked him with a fist bump.
EB was there?
EB was there.
my new voting ally, Ed Burke? Ed Burke?
Yeah. And he's fist bumping. Alderman Jim Gardner, Ben, of what ward?
Come on, Jimmy Gardner is the 45th.
Holy crap. Who do I work with?
Correct.
Alderman Jim Gardner says he looks forward to having a working relationship with the former mayoral candidate. See, look at that, Willie. People say, look at this. Hey, just giving them the masks is paying off already. Aldermen are expected to distribute the masks throughout their wards, Winslow said. The event garnered fervent...
That's Scott Winslow.
What's
right?
that?
Winslow?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
Say, that's Scotty. That's
that's Scott. I didn't know his last
Scott.
name.
Yeah, Winslow, man.
Yeah,
By the way, I have a
cool.
Willie Wilson T-shirt, and I was wearing it this weekend.
You're kidding me.
No, Willie Wilson, one time, I forget which show, he's nice. He used to come on the show all the time. We should bring him back. And he's a Republican. I'm out there. Hey, man, I get along with some Republicans. Okay, Willie Wilson. I like Willie Wilson. Anyway, he brought me a Willie Wilson T-shirt, and I happened to wear it the other day.
Wow. Where's my Willie Wilson T-shirt?
He only gave one, dude. I got it.
Oh, man.
Wait, that's my Millhouse laugh.
No, that's Nelson.
Nelson, you're right. God, he's good. He's good, ladies and gentlemen.
This event today garnered fervent support and camaraderie from the aldermen in attendance, although social distancing was not strictly enforced nor practiced. It says here. That's it.
Were they wearing masks?
Willie Wilson was wearing a mask, but he was touching the mask.
What about Burger King Ed?
King Ed? Yeah, he had a mask on. Come on, he's already in enough trouble. He can't get any more.
All right. Very good.
So there you are. Willie Wilson. There you go. Giving away the masks. And hey, guys, tonight we're going to be dropping our second interview.
Can't wait.
With one Mr. Bike, David Glowatz. He's going to give us it's going to be our first city council review, but the first Zoom city council.
Virtual council meeting.
Holy cow. I heard it was kind of crazy. Dogs
was a
barking.
humdinger.
It was a humdinger. Dogs barking during this thing. Everyone yelling at the same time. Rumor has it Scott Wagaspack was smoking pot during it. I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
He was not doing
Scotty Wagaspack's the finance committee chair, and finance committee chairs do not smoke reefer.
Those are jokes. Oh, by the way, what did you think of PC Cunningham's response to what Biden should do in regards to the Tara Reid situation?
He should do that. He's got to own up to it. But I'm going to be very practical and very pragmatic and very realistic on what I'm about to say, young Dennis. Most Democrats don't care. And that is the hardcore reality. Babs and myself, I think, are the only two Democrats that care about this issue. I already put my proposal on the table. Joe Biden steps down. Brett Kavanaugh steps down. It's an even exchange. Republicans are like, no, we just want you to step down. Oh, wait a minute. Huh? It doesn't go both ways? And by the way, let me just point out, Donald John Trump, how many accusations? 23? Is that right? I think it's 23. So maybe he should step down, too.
Okay, well, that'll never happen in a million years, but that's Ben's predictions there.
No, I didn't say
Kavanaugh stepped down, Biden stepped down.
Wait, it wasn't a prediction. I know it won't happen. I'm just saying if let's both play by the rules.
Find our interview tonight, everybody. It's download only live streamers, all right? Chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, or wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Subscribe to the Ben Joravsky Show if you have yet to. Turns out it helps us out. And if you're listening on the live stream chat right now, click like, subscribe, and all that good stuff as well. Turns out that looks good for us as well. So go do that. And we thank everybody for joining us today.
Yes, we do. Thank absolutely everyone. And we're going to hurry up and get off and upload this show so that we can do the interview with Dave Glowatz. I'm really excited about doing that. I want to thank PC Peter Cunningham. Great interview with him. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom this show would not be possible. You should see him wheeling and dealing at that board, ladies and gentlemen. Back home in Alton, as Dave Glowatz can tell you, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a day. He's taking out petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Not a doctor.
That's correct.